Do you feel comfortable getting started, Danielle?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. It looks like majority of folks are here. So I just want to say welcome to everyone. We're really excited to start this series of office hours about sustainability planning. A lot of the feedback and questions and thoughts y'all had really inspired the overall TA team to want to dive deeper and make sure that each component was really well understood and get everyone the support they needed. So I will pass it over to Lindsay to get things started.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining us. And welcome to the end of June, which is really hard to believe that we're here. So the next three office hours, this one and the office hours in July and August are really going to be spent reviewing the subcomponents of the sustainability framework that we reviewed in our previous office hours in May. And so just to sort of remind us like why we're here, part of the deliverables is to create a sustainability plan. And so we wanted to help by providing some sort of self-assessment that could be used with the council. And then as part of that discussion and overview of the self-assessment, folks shared that, we really wanted to take some time and do a little bit of a deeper dive into the different components. And so that's sort of what we have planned out for our time today. We're breaking them up in terms of the structure into three components for each section. And so I've shared in the chat, I've shared the self-assessment, which is the whole document. I've shared the Health Equity Council, like a note-taking form that you can use and download. It's a Word document to share, any thoughts that you have, any questions that come up. And then finally, a sustainability one-pager that sort of provides a overview summary of the three components that we'll be talking about today. So in terms of the structure, we'll review the three sustainability framework components we'll dive into today, and then we're going to go into breakout rooms. You all will get to choose one component that you talk about with small groups. And so we know that you all love to talk to one another and to hear and learn from one another. And so we want to provide some opportunity to share, like, this is what's coming, this is what I'm seeing with my council, like, how do I use the rubric? Any questions that you may have, we want to have some time to share and pick each other's brains during the breakout room discussion. And then we'll just come back and reflect, have some time for reflections and any last minute questions, and then we will send us on our way. So that's sort of the agenda for today. Next slide, please. Okay, so I talked about the three resources I put in the chat. And I can put them again if somebody joins midway. But yeah, we'll have the self-assessment that you can refer to, and it's the entire self-assessment. Again, we're only going to be discussing the first three components today, the one pager and then the note-taking form. So you can type notes into that as we're going over the three components we're diving into today. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and I will pass it over to Kemi.
Thanks, Lindsay. So today I'll be walking you all through the sustainability framework components, focusing on the three components like Lindsay mentioned. But before we get into that, and I know you've probably heard this before, but just to give a brief overview of sustainability. So sustainability, it means that programs or services continue because they're valued. Doesn't necessarily mean that activities continue in the same way that it was conceived. So it can evolve over time or adjust based off of the needs of the community or level of support. So the sustainability framework components, this is just one resource in terms of sustainability, but we wanted to share the sustainability self-assessment tool as a way for you to use for various reasons. For example, you can use it for your health equity council's just general level of functioning related to the elements of the sustainability framework. It provides a guidance on activities or your capacities and ways you can improve it and move along the spectrum. It also helps to isolate or highlight areas where continued work or development might be needed, and also provides a baseline for you to view change over time. So you can do it multiple times throughout, the work of the HEC. It also helps you to identify areas to focus your efforts, especially around the sustainability plan that you'll be developing later on. So by using this tool, you can evaluate your current practices, areas that needs improvement, and just, improve your long-term planning and ensure that the components of the sustainability are considered. And this is a rubric that is part of the self-assessment. And just again, the rubric is not intended to be definitive, meaning like you're not expected to fit every description perfectly. Really is more of an illustration to show you the continuum among which your HEC might fall under. So there's no right or wrong answer. It's really just to help you visualize where your HEC fits along this continuum and to help you continue to plan areas of improvement or lean on the strengths that you currently have. Okay, so like Lindsay mentioned, for this session, we're focusing on 3 of the components: strategic vision, collaboration, and leadership. So for strategic vision, the first statement here is that the HEC has a clearly defined vision for what it hopes to achieve. So along the rubric, there's pre-awareness, awareness, interaction, and mastery. And in the pre-awareness stage, for this statement, the HEC views all activities as short-term. So for example, the HEC can conduct activities without thinking about long-term vision and just focus solely on the immediate needs, such as providing health workshops without any strategic plan for future improvements. In the awareness stage, the HEC recognizes the need for long-term planning, but remains focused on short-term implementation. So for instance, the HEC might implement temporarily health screenings without integrating them into a broader health strategy. And then in the interaction stage, the HEC has long-term concept for a specific program implementation. So you can develop long-term concept of vision statement, such as a multi-year plan to reduce health disparities, but the vision isn't fully aligned into all of your activities. And then in the mastery stage, this is where the HEC views the work as part of a long-term approach for systemic change. So they have a comprehensive long-term vision that's fully integrated into all activities. So every program and initiative aligns with your strategic vision. So those are just examples for each of those stages of the rubric. So when it comes to having a clearly defined vision, it could range from just focusing on short-term activities to having a long-term vision that's integrated into all of your activities. So another section of the strategic vision is that all those associated with your HEC shares its vision. So in the pre-awareness stage, this is, the vision that the vision is developed in isolation from partners. So the HEC leadership might create a vision statement, but without consulting or informing community partners or stakeholders. So as a result, most partners are unaware of the vision or continue their work independently. In the awareness stage, the HEC, starts to develop the vision, but with limited input from partners. So there's no true commitment. The vision is shared at maybe a few partner meetings, and while some partners acknowledge it, is not a widespread commitment or integration into the vision of their activities. So example might be that the HEC is sharing its vision for improvement of mental health services at a few community meetings, but not working closely with mental health providers to align strategies. In the interaction stage, so partners participate in the development of the vision, but without organizational commitment. So the HEC might host a workshop and meeting to discuss the vision with partners, and partners begin to understand and support the vision, integrating it into their own organization, but the organization commitment is still in progress. So for example, partners might start aligning their health initiatives with the HEC vision for holistic community health, but not fully committed across all their programs. And then in the mastery stage, all partners develop, share, and are committed to the vision. So the vision is co-created with deep involvement from all partners and stakeholders, leading to a strong sense of shared purpose and collective responsibility. So for instance, all partners, including government agencies, healthcare providers, schools, community organizations, whichever partners are involved, align with the HEC's vision, and regular meetings and collaborative programs demonstrate high level of commitment. All right, so another critical aspect of strategic vision is focusing on the importance of aligning all activities with that vision. So at the pre-awareness stage, activities are not clearly defined or implemented with reference to the stated vision. The HEC conducts various work programs without considering how the activity fits into their long-term plan. So each program operates in isolation with no reference to the broader vision. In the awareness stage, the HEC begins to recognize the need for aligning activities with long-term vision, and they start to review existing programs to see how it might contribute to the broader goals, but maybe not have implemented changes. So for example, they might recognize that workshops need to be part of the larger strategy, but are still in the process of making those connections. And then in the interaction stage, all activities are oriented to specific issues, but and some are aligned with the long-term vision. But there are several programs to better align with the vision, with the vision or the goal. So for instance, the HEC might shift from one-off support and workshops to ongoing wellness programs that address the goal, and the activities begin to reflect a strategic effort to achieve your long-term goals. And then in the mastery stage, every activity and program is designed to support the long-term vision. So there's an established framework for making sure that new initiatives or new programs are aligned with the vision before implementation, and regular adjustments or assessments are made to make sure that is on track with the vision. Okay, so moving on to collaboration. So effective collaboration involves partnerships that include stakeholders necessary for successful planning, implementation, and continuation for programs and services. So for this one, in the pre-awareness stage, partners are formed merely to fulfill funding requirements, for example. So the HEC forms a partnership with a local nonprofit, mainly just to meet their requirements, and is not necessarily aligned with the goals. In the awareness stage, partnerships are based off of maybe previous relationships that may or may not support the current work. So the HEC might work with those that they've worked with before, but whether or not the organizations align with the goal or have the capacity to support the work. And then in the interaction phase, partnerships are assessed and are included. to effectively support the work, and the ACC might begin involving organizations into the program and implementation, and they're leading joint activities together to support their goal. And then the mastery stage partnerships include all organizations needed to strategically address the issue or the goal, and the HEC have built a comprehensive network of partners, including educational institutions, healthcare providers, or whatever is needed to meet the goal and the vision of the HEC. And it's well coordinated and strategically aligned. So for this component, it can range from having partnerships based off of convenience to having well thought out partnerships that are aligned with your goal. So another part of collaboration is that partners play an integral role and have a shared interest in the outcomes. So for this stage for pre-awareness, the lead organization might perform all activities and retain all the resources to themselves, and manage program activities internally without involving partners in the planning or execution. In the awareness stage, the lead organization might perform program activities with participation of some partners. So the ACC might begin involving some partners in specific activities, such as leading a workshop or health clinic. But the involvement is limited to execution, and the partner doesn't have as much input into the planning or the broader goals. In the interaction phase or stage, partners engage in activities, and some resources are shared among partners, but the HEC includes most partners in the planning and the implementation activity in this stage. However, partners, so partners begin to see the value of their involvement and share interest in the outcome. So this is where partners are starting to see themselves more as a value and share interest in the outcomes. But then in the mastery stage, it takes it further because partners then begin to make joint decisions, and the overall direction and utilization of the resources are shared among partners. For example, you can have a strategic planning retreat that involves all partners who are collectively deciding the goals and activities of the upcoming year. So financial resources are distributed, and there's a shared commitment to achieving the desired health outcomes. And the final the final component for today or for this session is leadership. And this is where leadership inspires others to create and achieve a shared vision, understanding relationship between short-term activities and long-term success. So in the pre-awareness stage, the leadership operates independently to implement the work with no strategic involvement from others. So for example, decisions are made with a small leadership team without consulting community members or partners. In the awareness stage, leadership starts to engage partners in short-term problem solving and occasionally meet with key partners to address immediate challenges, but don't involve them in the overall strategic planning. And then in the interaction stage, this is where leadership engages partners in developing strategies for long-term success. Regular strategic planning sessions are organized with key stakeholders to discuss and plan future initiatives, future programs. And then the mastery stage, this is where the leadership engages partners to define and accomplish and sustain its vision through a shared sense of responsibility. So it creates an environment of collaboration and enthusiasm. It's created and partners are committed to long-term health equity goals and are actively participating in strategic planning. So again, as I mentioned, these are the first or three of the components that we'll be sharing today, just to help you understand. Again, this rubric is really just where your council stands on that continuum. So before I turn it over into breakouts, are there any questions about what I shared?
And I will say, if there are questions about specific components, we'll have the opportunity in the breakout rooms to ask those specific questions. So I guess this would be the time if there's any like overarching questions, but I just want to make sure we have the time for the breakout rooms. Thank you, Kemi. I appreciate it. Monique?
Good afternoon. Again, I apologize for being off camera. I have some IT issues, but I wanted to still be here with you all today. So now that we have reviewed the three components, again, strategic vision, collaboration, and leadership, you will be able to self-select into a breakout room based on the component you would like to discuss. We do encourage you to select the component that you may have questions about or where you could offer support. During the time of the breakout room, we also would like you to talk about questions that are coming up for you, how you might rank your council based on this component. You can also, during this time, practice using the self-assessment and sharing ideas out. If you feel confident about your selected component and want to be in that room to be able to offer support, please share what makes you confident. If not, what do you think you need to get there, and anything that you think you need that can be built into the work to get to mastery level. So Lindsay will lead us into breaking out into our groups. Again, this is a self-select group. So feel free to select any component you feel you want to talk about, offer support, or share ideas on.
Thank you. So you should see an invitation to go into breakout room. It should say strategic visioning, collaboration, and leadership. And we're going to have about 15 minutes to go through. So please select the room that you would like to be a part of, and back in about 15 minutes. And I'm going to stay here in case anyone needs help. Kemi, Laura, you know where you're going? Okay.
Oh, Lindsay, I'm not seeing my options.
So are you want to go, let me see if I can, do you know where you want to go? Maybe I can send you there.
Yeah, strategic.
Visioning?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna see, do you see an invite now?
Yep, now I am.
Okay. Chandra, Andrea, do you know where you'd like to go? Hi, Chandra. Hey, let me know if you have some trouble or you want me to assign you to a particular room.
That was really short. I'm sad.
I know.
That
Welcome
was
back,
too short.
everyone. I know. So Kemi, can you reshare your screen for us, please? All right, we're going to turn it over to Laura now.
Thank you, Lindsay. And I will just give everyone a heads up. I'm in Erie, Pennsylvania, and we're in the midst of severe storms, and it's picking up now. So if you see me glitch out, I'm just holding down the fort here in Erie, Pennsylvania in this stormy weather. So bear with me. You might be able to hear some of the rain in the background too. But we were in our breakout rooms. We were able to self-select which breakout room we wanted to work in, whether that be strategic vision, leadership, or collaboration. And so I hope that each of you had some fruitful conversations from the breakout rooms that you were in, but we always want to return to a larger space and reflect on how those conversations went. So I want to open up this space and hear from a few of you on what is something that you learned from your group discussion in your breakout group, or something that you're taking away from the conversation that you had in your group. And you can come off mute if you feel comfortable to speak out loud, or you can share in the chat as well. We welcome you to share however you feel most comfortable in this space.
I'll share. I was in the strategic visioning room, and one thing that I'm going to say I was perhaps relieved by is that like our group, we're in the awareness phase because we're going through some transition, and the other groups were in that area in one way, shape, or form either. So, you know, for a moment I was like, oh man, we're a little behind, but you know, everybody's kind of working around that space. So I think that was nice to be in a similar category of sorts.
Thank you for sharing, Nicole. That's what's so important about having these spaces, to really exchange information with each other. Sometimes it's just about validation and knowing that either we're all at different stages and there's no right or wrong space to be in, or that we're actually in very similar spaces and not alone in this journey. So thank you for sharing that. What other? Brian's off mute. I don't know if that's on purpose or not, but I'll pick on you, Brian.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. I just didn't come off mute after the breakout, but we were in the collaboration room, and Shoni, it's just Shoni and myself. And I think we talked about, you know, I think both of us have had some success with collaboration with our groups. And I think we kind of maybe drifted a little bit into the leadership discussion as well, because I think while we've had decent collaboration and participation from different, you know, either nonprofits or community members, I think what we've struggled in is kind of like elevating those individuals to leadership roles within the council. So for us in Kent County specifically, you know, the health department tends to kind of do all of that heavy lifting work and leading meetings and planning and do strategic planning and all that kind of stuff. And so we've had a few of our members step up into some roles to lead action teams or some of our smaller work groups. But really, I think the challenge is getting people to step beyond like the participation in our weekly or monthly council meetings to take on some of this extra responsibility to lead different parts of the council. So that's what we talked about mostly. We were kind of getting into some more deeper conversation, then we got yanked out of the breakout meeting back to this room. But so that's kind of what we talked about there, but kind of, I think, bridged between collaboration and leadership in our conversation.
Thank you so much, Brian. And this is a perfect segue because I see Calvin nodding his head very like strongly. So Calvin was actually the lone wolf in our leadership group. I don't know, Calvin, if you wanted to share some of your feedback, you know, from what Brian was sharing in terms of leadership, or just what we chatted about in our group.
So it's kind of, that's why I made the choice to go into leadership, because what I found in collaboration is that it all facts fall back on leadership, right? And so the struggle for me is like, there's expectations from our leaders. And I think it happened in a pre-awareness stage where there was selection of these, as Kimmy was pointing out, of these leaders to be a part of this council. And when these leaders were selected, now it's on the leaders to kind of like think for themselves, you know what I'm saying, to figure out how you're going to lead. And so because we are, as leaders, are all in different spaces, that could be intimidating. You know, some people get silenced. Some people have been silenced and have been elected to be a leader on a health equity council. Some people have trauma, but leadership ain't about none of that. It's about being able to lead beyond those things. And so for me, it's how do we help hold people accountable that are part of the Health Equity Council who says they want to lead. Where and then those who are who is a part of what I consider to be like the academic or the governmental or the university part, how do your tools help to collaborate what we understand in real time, you know, in the community so that we can develop the trust that is necessary in order for us to move the community forward. Because remember, we're dealing with leaders who have been there's been a narrative a narrative been created by a deficit narrative, might you add, and then they're in a community who's saying that we are just here to parachute in. We're just here to take advantage. Y'all, what y'all gonna leave us with? Y'all gonna do for us? And so when the organizations leave out, the community members are left there, you know, and the community members that are part of the Health Equity Council are kind of like, I would say, like the leftovers, for lack of a better term, you know what I'm saying? That aren't a part of organizations that has been affected by these deficit narrative and does have trauma issues that prevent them from being able to do what they're doing for our community in the best way that they know how. Sorry, I don't know if I articulated that right, but Kimmy kind of like inspired me when she read off why the council was developed, you know, when she talked about the pre-assessment. As a leader, I know I didn't understand the pre-assessment. Not mentally, I understand it in theory, but carrying into the practice, I didn't know that. So when she explained it to me, it hit me. Now we're going to assessment. This is all about leadership. Everything is about leadership, us knowing what it is that we need to do. So thank y'all. But Brian, you kind of hit home for me. You confirmed everything that I was thinking. Thank you.
All right, that's good.
We love to hear that. Any other thoughts, feedback from what Calvin shared, or any takeaways from your breakout session that you had that you'd like to share with the group? Right. Are there any? Oh, go ahead, Chandra.
No, this is Chandra. I was just going to say, I don't know if all three breakouts felt this way, but it is clear that at least two of them felt that theirs was the one that really was the pivotal one. So in strategic vision, at least two of us were saying like, yeah, if you don't have this, then you can't really do the rest. This is the one that's most important. And now I'm hearing that the leadership one also had that same perspective. So just interesting.
Really glad that you shared that reflection. We will challenge you all to be thinking about that before we meet again in July. And what comes first? Or is there an order? Is it a linear approach? Yeah, is it the chicken or the egg? Is it strategic vision or is it leadership? So Calvin has his hand raised. Calvin, you can come up.
I just wanted to share this thought, right? Our summit left me with something, right? And I've said this a long time, like the people who we need are in need. So that first has to be addressed. How do we address the needs of the people that we need? And then now we can collaborate all these things. All of it is strategic planning, because we need to be able to address the needs of our leaders. Collaboration, because even in our strategic planning, or even in our trauma, even in whatever state we may be in, there needs to be collaboration. But in order for us to be all these things, we have to be effective leaders. We have to learn how to be a leader in spite of. I got to be a parent no matter what my child do. You know what I mean? And so that's how I think of leadership. Now that I got the child or the children, now I develop these plans so that we can bring out the best and brightest. You know what I mean? And some people are good at one thing, and then other people are good at another thing. But the whole thing is how we bring all those things together. So I agree with all of them.
Any other questions that you all may have for us. We've got about 4-ish minutes left here for reflection. And of course, we always want to remind you that our team is available at any time. So if the questions don't come up now and you take a look at the self-assessment that we've shared with you, you've got the 1-page kind of summary to take a look at as well. If you are looking at these materials between now and July and find, holy cow, I have a lot more that's bubbling up than I thought, you can reach out to our team at any time. We're happy to be a resource and a support to all of you. You can bring it back into our July office hour space as well and ask these questions. But I'm a processor, so I know it takes me a minute sometimes to realize I got a question. If they come up after our meeting, don't hesitate to reach out to our team. But any other final thoughts or questions for us?
I was going to say that I don't think, any one of those components is more important than the other. I think they're all critical. I think I kind of, see it as like that 3-legged stool kind of thing, where if you don't have all of them and they're not all strong, you're going to fall over. And so, probably each of us had our own thoughts about, that, yeah, this is really important, but, when you think about the entirety of how a council operates, if you don't have all 3 that are strong, then it's going to fall down.
Absolutely. I love that analogy. And I think too, as you all get more familiar with the information shared today and the content that we have from the resources we provided, you'll be kind of thinking about those things more and more of how each of these 3 components, just to start, are equally vital. And I'll kind of segue from there into our final remarks that this is just session 1. So there are more components coming. So when we're feeling now like, ooh, leadership is most important, guess what, y'all? We've got 3 more components coming next time we meet with you in July. So you're going to be really thinking about, how all of these pieces play together, and that stool is going to have a lot more legs on it too. Maybe it'll be spokes on a wheel. So yeah, great reflection, Brian, and everyone else that shared out. Use us if you need us as a resource. Oh, Calvin's got.
Don't hold us accountable if we switch up. It's proactive learning.
Absolutely. That's what's fluid about this process. So no worries. Right. I'll hand it back over to our team for final remarks for office hours. Thank you all for sharing out in our breakout rooms.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks everyone for attending. It was really nice to connect with everyone this month and see a lot of you in person last month. So as we see on the screen, just in terms of those next steps, take some time to review these first 3 components, send any follow-up questions that you have to myself and Lindsay, and then our next office hour will focus on those next 3 components. So a lot of the materials that you have access to right now are going to be the same materials that we'll work with for next month and then going forward, just so that we can kind of build out the notes repository you have, kind of make sure that all of those reflections all have one home together. And then if you have questions for anything outside of sustainability planning that you still wanted to talk to us about, feel free to stay on for those last 6 minutes. But it was great to see you all.
Thank you. This was helpful.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Janelle,
Yeah.
will we, that chart that was shown in our meeting, will we get that, or was that sent out already? And
It was sent out, but we'll send it again with follow-up when we post the recording in Padlet.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks a lot then. Thanks, everybody.
No problem. Thank you for coming, Daddy.
Sure.